In a colonial office plan for the defence of the empire, there was a distinction to be drawn between decolonisation and independence. There would be elections, but no electoral contests. How this was done in the 1956 elections to the regional assemblies was revealed by Harold Smith in his unpublished memoirs. At this juncture, the order arrived which was to change my life. It had come through the chain of command, apparently from the Governor-General Robertson himself. It was addressed to me personally. Perhaps my work had come to the Governor-General's attention. I was much too modest to make that assumption. The order directed me to arrange for all Nigerian staff of the department and all departmental vehicles to proceed to the Minister, Festus Okoti-Ebo's constituency for the duration of the election campaign to work under the Minister's orders and to get his NCNC candidates elected. This was a covert operation and a cover story was needed. I was to devise a survey of migrant labour covering the Minister's constituency. My reply was brief. No, I wrote on the minute sheet. This would be a criminal act. It is no exaggeration to say that the tactics to which the combination of Robertson and Macpherson resorted in the implementation of the Colonial Office's plan were responsible for the failure of democracy in Nigeria. This was where the practice of rigging elections and the corruption of the political system began. A key objective of the British at the 1957 conference was to secure agreement to the creation of an office of Federal Prime Minister and to an all-Nigerian Federal Council of Ministers presided over by the Governor-General, whose members would be appointed by the Governor-General on the Prime Minister's recommendation. The principle was innocent enough to sell, but the devil lay in the choice of Prime Minister. There was no plan for the post to be filled by electoral contest. This was politics by selection, and it was Governor Robertson who would be selecting the person who would be the first Prime Minister. Long before the idea of the new office was presented to the delegates at the conference, he had made his choice in Tafawa Balewa of the MPC. The grooming of Balewa for his role as Prime Minister had in fact begun long before. He had been one of the two Nigerian ministers who represented Nigeria at the 1953 West African Forces Conference, which held in Lagos in April 1953. He also attended the meetings of the West African Military Council, which followed. Tragically, Balewa's colleagues' comment that only death would free him from Lagos was to prove a prophecy, as Sherwood Smith's response on 19th of February 1957 made it clear that he had no choice but to fulfill the role for which he had been chosen. His only comfort was to be the assurance that neither he nor the North would be left to walk alone in the cause. Abubakar accepted my advice. In the meantime, preparations were going forward for the 1957 Constitutional Conference, and before leaving Lagos for London, he wrote to me again. He wished me to prepare for him, personally, 2 papers. In one, he asked me to set out what, in my view, were the essential requirements for a new nation aspiring to independence. In the other paper, he asked me to lay down what I thought should be the minimum safeguards that the North should demand before finally committing itself to independence. The first paper presented no great difficulty, but when it came to the second, I had to stress that constitutional safeguards would not be worth the paper on which they were written once the legislature made up its mind to scrap them. It had also to be remembered that, in the ultimate result, it would be the armed forces of the state, the army and the Nigerian police, on whose discipline and loyalty the government of the day might have to depend, maybe for survival. It was therefore of great importance that the composition of both forces, both as regards officers and men, should represent a reasonably balanced cross-section of the major ethnic groups in the Federation. With this vital tip-off on the trump card which control of the army and the police represented within any democratic arrangement, the North was ready to take on the educated natives who had only been schooled in the art of constitutional government. On May 23rd, the delegates assembled in Lancaster House. The Secretary of State, Mr. Lennox Boyd, presided, and this time the regional governors were present in addition to the Governor-General. But our part was largely played in personal discussions in less formal surroundings. In the conference chamber, it was for the politicians to hold the stage.